Hello YouTube, this is Mike. All right, so we're going to talk about pretty much what we always talk about on this channel, which is how to recover, how to heal from narcissistic abuse, specifically in romantic relationships. So, as you already know, I am not an expert in anything. I am not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I am not certified in any kind of counseling or mental health healing. I barely understand the majority of psychological terms. So I'm not here, to talk about this from a professional point of view. What I am is I am somebody who has fully recovered. Listen very carefully to what I say. I have fully recovered from an extremely toxic, traumatic, romantic relationship with someone whom I believe was an undiagnosed and untreated borderline. And so that's what I've experienced, that's what I know. And what I do on this channel is I share with people what I did to achieve this state. So let me be clear. I'm making a very bold statement in this video, which is there is a difference between recovering from one of these toxic relationships and surviving one of these relationships. The first name of this channel, I believe, was Surviving BPD Relationship Breakup. And that was a good title because that's what I was doing. This was a year and a half ago. And those first videos, if you watch my videos chronologically, those first videos of me were literally the day that I went no contact. I had gotten what has turned out to be the final discard, and then I went back to get some closure because I was so confused and so devalued, and I just couldn't make any sense of it. And it was that attempt at trying to get some closure that I came to realize, wow, the person I'm dealing with is not functional. There's something seriously damaged and broken inside of her psyche that I need to understand a little bit more. And so those first few videos, for the first, couple of weeks probably, maybe more, of me talking about really laying out how irrational borderline personality disorder was, how it really wasn't my fault, how I really had not done anything to deserve or create that, and I was really trying to help myself recover from that horrific state of trauma, which is cognitive dissonance, where you really can't merge these two understandings, and the feeling that you're insane, that you've completely lost touch with reality, and that you don't have any value, that you don't deserve to exist. And it was easily the most toxic, destructive, concentrated experience of my life. I've had a lot of toxic experiences in my life based on my childhood, but nothing had come close to the intensity and the concentrated toxicity of that, and subsequently what was triggered within me. To this day, that stands as the most painful, toxic, horrific experience of my life. And that is even worse than having lost the love of my life. You know, there was a woman who was my soulmate, and she passed away from breast cancer, and that was devastating. But even that was not as bad as this short-lived, you know, I was only with her for 4 months, 6 months, something like that, with the borderline. Even losing, experiencing the death of, you know, whom I experienced as the perfect being for me. That was not as bad as the damage that occurred to me as a result of being in a romantic relationship with an untreated toxic borderline. By the way, before I go any further, anybody watching this who happens to be a borderline personality disorder, my opinion, which again is nothing, it's just my opinion. My opinion is that it is something that can be treated, and that a borderline can, if they're willing to do the hard work, they can achieve a state of recovery where I believe it may be possible for them to have healthy, loving relationships. So everything that I say about borderlines, if you don't believe that you are part of that, if you don't see yourself as one of these very sick, damaged people that causes all this pain, then I'm obviously not talking about you. But it is incredibly important for people who have experienced this to be able to have some place to go where they are seen and heard and understood. And my channel, it is my attempt to make this channel one of those places. There isn't a lot. I haven't experienced it. And if I'm being honest, this video today is a result of watching other channels that address this. And as I'm watching them, I'm watching experts, I suppose. I'm watching these experts really struggle with recovery. And what's missing in what they talk about is I don't see any recovery. I see a lot of psychological evaluation, which I do on this channel, a lot of psychoanalysis, which I do on this channel, a lot of understanding the problem, understanding the symptoms, understanding the underlying mechanism of the abuse and the pain. But I don't see a lot of recovery. And it's simply because I don't think they have the tools. And that's not a judgment. This is the sad state of this dynamic. For lack of a better word, codependence. Codependence in a toxic relationship, you know, the sad dynamic of that is that it's one of those, it's like an incurable disease. So imagine, oh my God, I can't believe I'm about to say this. This is actually what's going on in the real world. Imagine that there is this horrific disease out there that nobody has any defense against, and it's just a matter of whether or not you can avoid it. And people go into the hospital and die of it, but there happens to actually be a cure. But nobody knows about it. And if you try and give somebody the cure, they'll tell you the cure doesn't exist. And this is one of the things that happens with this. So I want to be clear. When you've been in a relationship with somebody who has a cluster B personality disorder, somebody who has NPD, BPD, by the way, BPD is a form of NPD. If you've been in a relationship with somebody who has this, what was I going to say? I got distracted. If you've been in a relationship with somebody who has this, you have to treat yourself as somebody who's been infected with a lethal virus. A lethal, maybe bacteria is a better symbol of that. It is something that's not going to go away. Time will not heal this infection. It is an infection. It gets inside of you. It gets inside of you, and just like an infection, like, for instance, viruses. You know what viruses do is they get inside your body, and then what they do is they gain access to your cells, the cells of your body. And then once they get into the cells of your body, they open themselves up, and then they take over the cell and use the cell to replicate. And then the cell is destroyed, and as the cell is destroyed, they've replicated more of themselves. And this is exactly what happens with these kinds of relationships. The toxic devaluation gets inside of you, and it starts to feed off of you. This is even after the relationship is over. I want to be clear. This, of course, happens in the relationship, and that's obvious. You're with somebody that's continuously abusing you. So that makes sense. But then when the relationship is over, that should stop, right? The pain should stop. The devaluation, the lack of self-worth, the horrific suicidal emptiness, all of that should stop. What you experience as the, what do they call that? When you're obsessed with somebody, the rumination, which again is really just a really toxic form of cognitive dissonance, where you keep in a loop going over what went wrong, trying to fix it. That's what's happening. It's just this horrible loop you can't get out of. And it's an infection. It has to be looked at that way. So if you don't understand that this infection will not go away on its own, if you don't understand that, then you're doomed to live it out and repeat it. And so this is, somebody can become, there's no shortage of experts out there. And I mean that with quotes, and I mean that without quotes. There's no shortage of people who are either self-styled experts or actual experts in narcissistic abuse, but I don't see any recovery. What I mean by recovery is what I am experiencing that I've achieved. And it sounds really, it sounds really grandiose, but it's not. I tell you the 4 things to do to recover from narcissistic abuse, and that's only because I have to give it to you in 4 simple, actionable steps. But I didn't make them up. I didn't make this up. I'm not some genius that came up with some amazing new way to overcome narcissistic abuse. It's real simple. It's just codependence. It's just a form of codependence. And there's a way to recover. Not just survive, but actually recover. And I liken it, it's very simple. I oversimplify it, but it's true. It's, you've been infected, you go to the doctor. Imagine before penicillin. You go to the doctor and you're infected. People died. People died of the plague. It's a very treatable bacterial infection. People died of it. You couldn't, there was nothing you could do. Or at least so it seemed. And this is one of those things. These, otherwise, why would you be watching my channel? Why would you be watching any of these videos that talk about this? And I think about it. I think about these experts that they make their life about continuously talking about narcissistic abuse. Ironically, I'm doing that. But as I've said, I don't need to do this channel. I have recovered from that relationship. And again, just to be clear, the only thing that I guarantee you is if you do these 4 things that I did not invent, if you do the 4 things that I recommend, you will eventually completely heal from that abusive relationship. If you work it as hard as you can, I can't tell you when, but at some point, I guarantee you, you will have zero pain associated with it. You will have zero cognitive dissonance. You will have zero rumination. You will not repeat it. But that's only if you do the 4 things. And I liken it to going to the doctor. You go to the doctor and you've got, you've got some kind of sexually transmitted bacterial infection. And the doctor says, oh, that's easy. Here, take these. He gives you, he looks in the drawer. He's got it in his drawer. He pulls out the drawer. He goes, oh, yeah, here. And he gives you some antibiotics. He gives you a Z-Pack, something. You take it home and you follow the instructions. And within, a few days or a week, it's gone. And coming onto my channel and wanting to hear me talk about the pain and the abuse and really getting off on what I do fairly well, which is to psychoanalyze what goes on in the deep recesses of the borderline's psyche and what goes on in your psyche. You get a rush off of that. You enjoy that. You get off on that. It gives you a feeling of you're not crazy. It gives you a sense of I'm going to be okay for whatever. And then I give you the antibiotics. And I say go take the antibiotics, and you don't do it. It's like going back to the doctor, and you were there a week and you had some itching there, and then you come back, a couple weeks later and it's turned into a rash that's and the doctor says, why didn't you take the medication? Well, I looked at it. I read it. I went online and I researched it. I took one and then I kind of thought about it and I said, do I need to take all of them? So I didn't take all of them, and then I waited a couple of weeks and then I started taking them again. It didn't seem to work. So, it's the same kind of thing. So let's take a look at some comments. People have asked me some questions on the channel. And again, I can tell if you've done the 4 things or not. It's not that I don't like taking your questions. It's not like I don't like talking about it. I do, obviously. It's just that you wouldn't need to ask the questions if you took the medicine. If you take the medicine, you won't need to ask. Maybe you will have a couple of questions, but pretty much every single question that comes on here, if you haven't done the 4 things, if you do the 4 things, even though you have the question, by the time you've done the 4 things, at some point, you won't have that question anymore. You'll either see how the question is irrelevant, or you will have fixed the problem and you won't care anymore. And again, let me be clear about what it is that I'm telling you, that I'm offering you. I'm offering you a way to not be in pain anymore, ever again, about that person, ever. Not because you've forgotten about them or tuned them out, or because you found somebody else to replace them, because the pain really won't be there. They won't have the importance that you now think they have. You'll realize that they really have no importance in your life. It's that simple. The one thing about narcissistic relationships, drum roll, they're not real. The level of pain that you experience, and I don't care if you've been married to a borderline, had kids with them, that's going to, of course, get more complicated once you get kids into it. But let's take the kids example out of it. But, no matter how long you've been with somebody, you've been married to them, the pain you're experiencing is not based on anything real. The pain that you're experiencing, the loss, is what I'm really trying to get at. The loss of the relationship and the love that you mourn is nothing. because it's not a real relationship. You cannot be in a relationship with a borderline or a narcissist unless it is dual projection and transference, which means there's no way for you to be in a relationship where each person isn't objectifying the other. You as the victim believe that you have been objectified, which you have. And you're going to try and tell me, no, I honestly loved them. They objectified me. I'm the victim. But the truth is that since you now know that they never loved you in the way that you wanted, you now know that their love was not, quote, real. Even though you know that, you mourn as though you've lost the most wonderful love and connection of your life. And the truth of that is that that feeling is real, but it has nothing to do with your narcissistic ex. It has everything to do with your parents. And all you've done is you have transferred and projected onto the narcissist or the borderline your very real mourning and loss and pain that you have for your mom and or your dad. And when you do the 4 things and you heal, you will see that. You'll go, oh wow, this wasn't about them at all. And then then the pain about them disappears. They have no power over you anymore. All right, so let's read comment. So this is in response to why you keep going back to your narcissist borderline. And I gave a link in there. To a video. I'm not trying to point anybody out, but anyway, if you watch the video, you'll know who I'm talking about. Somebody very popular talks about this kind of stuff, and somebody who, even though they're they get paid, and by the way, I'm not judging any of this, just to be clear. Even though they get paid to counsel people on how to recover from narcissistic abuse, this person says, I did it again. I got involved with somebody and I got, whatever. And this person's having a lot of shame about that. But I watched it, and as, for me, with my grandiosity, I go, yeah, I know. You haven't done the 4 things. All that expertise doesn't give you recovery. And recovery isn't the same as surviving. Because what I've seen, and I can only tell you what I've seen, I'm okay if I'm wrong about this. I have no attachment to this. I don't care. I don't need to be right about this. And if I find out I'm wrong, I'll tell you. It's one thing you can be sure of with me. Even when I'm grandiose about something, and I have been. And recently, I've been very grandiose about something, and a couple months ago, I found out I was completely, totally mistaken. Like as mistaken as somebody could be. And as soon as I realized that, I came online and said, I was wrong about this. I couldn't have been more wrong. So I don't need to be right about this. But what I've seen is that people who have been damaged in this way, narcissistic abuse, people who have been damaged in this way, if they only go after it with psychology, there's never any real recovery. It's sort of like taking medication that can sort of relieve the symptoms, sometimes even relieve the symptoms enough so that you can start to heal a little bit, but then it seems to come back. It comes back in waves. And in my experience, what I've seen is that if people only use psychology, and I have a psychologist that I work with. In fact, I talked with him today and yesterday. So again, I'm not saying anything against that. But in my experience, people who only use psychology for this, what ends up happening is they never ever truly get over the narcissistic abuse. They never truly get over that person that harmed them. There's always, years later, there's still the pain, there's still the mourning, there's still there's some level of, I keep forgetting that word. Not obsession, but you know the word I'm talking about. Where you just can't stop thinking about what you did wrong and what was it about them. They never get rid of that. And so it's a pain that never goes away. And while I don't believe that there's any necessary cure for codependence, I do believe, and I know, you can absolutely be cured of the pain of the other person. You can completely, utterly get closure within yourself and resolve it. 100%. And it's one of those diseases that, what I mean by disease is the infection that you get from being with a narcissistic abuser. If you don't have 100% healing, it means you're not healed. You may have pushed back the symptoms a lot, but it means it's one of those infections that, you know, once your guard is down or your immune system goes down, you get back. Like, you know, if you've ever had chicken pox. I did. As a kid, I had chicken pox, as many people do. And then you hear of this thing called shingles. Old people get this thing called shingles. But what it is that as people get older, their immune system drops, and then the chicken pox, which is not gone, will come back. It'll come back differently. It'll come back, you know, and I've had it. You know, I've gotten it on my head. You know, I get this like pain, like nerve pain in my head, and it's usually when I'm overstressed or something like that, and, you know, a little bit of, looks like, you know, a couple of pimples, you know, come on there, but it's chicken pox. And that's what this is. When you've been with a narcissistic abuser, if you don't completely, utterly resolve it, it's always going to come back. And it will be that same person. You'll be triggered about that same person for the rest of your life. And what I'm saying to you is that you can recover completely from that one person. All right? So that's my grandiose expression of, you know, and I'm happy to be wrong about it. If I am, like if I end up back with my borderline ex, I'll tell you. I will come with my tail between my legs and I'll say, yep, I was wrong. So I don't have any ego attachment to it at the moment. Right now I can say without any reservation, I'm completely 100% cured of her. Totally. All right, so let's get to some comments here. All right, so this was in response to this video where I gave the link to that guy, and I said, and I was basically saying this guy doesn't have any recovery. He's got a lot of knowledge, he's got a lot of awareness, but he's not recovered. And what I was basically saying is, you know, the fourth step. Doing the four things. The four things. If this guy does the four things, he'd be the most phenomenal narcissistic recovery life coach that ever lived. He's far more successful than I am. So this person comes to this person's defense and says, in regards to the someone falling again for an NPD, and now, well, I'll just read it. It does take time to figure out a human being. He was involved for 3 to 4 months and noticed the pattern, and thank God. I believe that is normal. Are you saying we can identify these types upon sight or what? So first off, that's not a question. That is, you know, whenever you give out an assumption, when you lay out an assumption as a fact, you're not asking a question. You're either trying to win an argument or you're trying to get somebody to agree with you. So this person, again, is shoving an assumption down my throat when they say, it does take time to figure out a human being. That's an assumption. And is that true? Does it take time? Can you figure somebody out in 1 second? Can you have instant recognition about somebody or not? This assumption is, according to this person, it does take time to figure out a human being. And then he was involved for 3 to 4 months and noticed the pattern, and thank God. 3 to 4 months is a long time. It's not like he was involved for a couple of weeks and noticed the pattern. He was involved for 3 to 4 months. That's a long time. I was with my borderline for, it was at least 4 months. It got fuzzy after that. That's a long time. 4 months is enough to completely, totally destroy somebody's internal sense of self. If you've got a skilled enough narcissistic abuser and you have a deep enough codependent unresolved issue. So, I mean, I agree with you. Thank God he did figure it out, and he, to his credit, he got out. Good for him. He went no contact. Congratulations. That took tremendous strength and awareness and all that good stuff. So I'm not judging him for that. But to say, hey, you need to back off and give him some space. It takes time to figure somebody out. He was only with them for 4 months and then he got out. So are you saying that he should have known? Are you saying we can identify these types upon sight or what? So then I asked a question. So let me go back a little bit. First off, let's be clear about the dynamic that happens when it comes to this. There's a reason why people don't like what I have to say. There's a reason why people get really responsive to me and my grandiose statements about if you've been with a borderline for more than a couple of weeks, by definition, you are a codependent. There's a reason why that pisses people off to no end. It's a grandiose statement for me to say that. It's grandiose of me to say, I've completely recovered from this otherwise incurable infection. And if you don't have what I have, you're not healed. It's grandiose of me to do that, to show up and to say, to everybody's question, I can tell that you haven't done the 4 things. Have you? There's a reason why people respond so negatively to that. It's because what is built into the codependent dynamic is the codependent is actually nurturing and empowering the abuse. The codependent loves the abuse and does not like being given the cure. And so when I represent the cure, especially in this case, I pointed somebody out and I said, this guy doesn't have the tools to cure himself. This person's response is to go and defend them. Now, what they're really doing is they're defending themselves. This is obviously projection. He was with her for 3 or 4 months and he got over it. And thank God, it takes time. He's obviously talking about himself. He's obviously saying, I don't like what you've just said because I've experienced this and I couldn't figure this person out and I got sucked into it and it took me a while to figure it out. And I don't want you attacking me or condemning me or criticizing me, which of course I'm not doing any of those things. Any more than the doctor, when you walk in and you have a big giant pustule on your shoulder that's not going away, and he says, oh, you have whatever disease. He's not judging you. He's reading the diagnosis. Here's the diagnosis of what you've got. That's a good thing. Because now you know what you've got and he's got the cure. Here's the cure. If he doesn't know what you've got, he can't cure you. So it doesn't make any sense. You walk into the doctor's office and you go, I've got this big giant pustule. And he goes, oh my God, that's horrible. You don't go, hey man, don't come at me with this judgment here. I'm not a bad person because I have this pustule on me. Doctor's like, I know, it's really infected though. You need some medicine. Hey, don't put your judgment on me with I don't don't need your medicine. I'm just fine with, taking vitamin C and, the things that I'm doing. I'm doing some yoga and some vitamin C. Don't come at, I don't have to do listen, doctor. The doctor's, look, I'm just telling you, this is what I know. I mean, it works. But that's the same kind of thing. This person is now coming to the defense of somebody else because they obviously identify. And they want to be given the right to not see a narcissist coming. They want to protect that wound. They want to protect that dynamic. That obviously doesn't make sense, does it? That's not a rational thing to do. It's as irrational as wanting to tell the doctor, don't take the pustule away. Right? It doesn't make any sense. Well, that's because if you're a codependent, it means that you've been programmed irrationally. As a little infant, as an infant and a toddler, you were programmed to do things that were opposite to your well-being in order to survive. In order to get love from mom and dad made it really clear that if you want my love, you have to let me abuse you. So what ends up happening is we connect abuse with love. Love means survival. So when I come to you and I say, I have this cure, it's called the 4 things. If you do the 4 things, you will be cured of this. There's a part of you that says, you're going to take away the thing that's keeping me alive, which of course it's not, it's killing you. But you've been programmed to believe that poison is medicine. The 4 things give you the ability to rearrange the garbage in your head so that you can see poison as poison. So, what I wanted to say in response to this, just again to point out the irrationality of it, this person says he was involved for 3 to 4 months and noticed the pattern. And my response to that is that what you want? Do you want to have to accept a reality where a narcissist can seduce you and abuse you for 3 to 4 months before you realize, hey, this is abusive? Or would you rather be able to see the narcissist coming and avoid it before it ever happens? Which would you rather have? I'm willing to bet the obvious answer is, well, I'd like to be able to see them coming before they get here. Great. Then why are you defending somebody who spent 3 to 4 months being abused and didn't realize it until 3 to 4 months later? Again, I'm not judging the guy. I did it. There's nothing that I'm pointing out in anybody else that I haven't done myself. It's not a judgment. I don't want that anymore. I'm not going to protect that. I don't have any ego attachment about that. For me, being with that borderline for 4+ months was an absolute, there was nothing okay about that. And if I could have, if I could do it over again, I would have avoided that serious, and I had the option and I didn't. I walked right into that bear trap. I went, is that a bear trap? I think I'll be all right if I step in that bear trap. And I wasn't all right. I stepped into it and I was not all right. It hurt like hell. So that was my, that kind of what I wanted to say is that really what you want? Of course not. But you have to understand that the whole dynamic about codependence is that codependents seek out their destructive experience as if their life depended on it. And so when somebody comes along to free them, codependents will resist, and sometimes they will resist violently, because what they don't understand is that I represent you killing your parents. Somebody like me comes along and says, I've got a cure. You don't realize that me saying that is the same as saying you have to kill your parents. And you're like, my parents are my survival. And I'm like, no, they're not. So that's, again, there's no person in the world, I've never seen a codependent ever go, oh yeah, I think I have codependence. What is that? Can you give me the website again, coded.org? I want to make sure I have it. I'm going to go do that right now. And then, they go to the meeting and say, I want to sponsor now. I want to work the steps now. No, what they say is, I went to those meetings and, people were just so depressing. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's okay, but it's not for me. And I think I've already done those things. That's what they say. How do I know? Because I said the same thing. And again, it's the resistance to curing the illness that you think is keeping you alive. The poison. Like the ancient Chinese emperors who died of mercury poisoning because they would drink mercury because they thought it would make them live forever. That's what codependence is. So that's why you keep going back, even though you have all this intellectual knowledge, even though you've listened to Dr. So-and-so, and you've listened to so-and-so, the narcissist, and you've listened to me go on and on about the deep underpinnings of narcissistic mindset, even though you have all of this intellectual knowledge, it doesn't mean jack shit when big, doe-eyed, borderline cutie walks around and blinks and smiles, maybe cries a little bit. You've got no defenses. You can't help it. Next thing you know, you're in it. How the hell did I get in there? How did I end up here again? And then you're going to come back and tell me how yours is different. You don't understand. Our relationship is different. Yeah, I know it sounds like that, but you don't understand. It's complicated. It's complicated. It's never complicated. So the answer to the question is, are you saying we can identify these types upon sight? Yes. Not only that, but if you resolve within you, if you resolve your parental issues, which I'm saying are best done with the combination of the 12 steps and therapy. So that's what worked for me. I only have my experience. Is there something else out there? Maybe. Have I seen anybody else do something else and have this level of recovery? If they, I'm not talking about borderlines or narcissists. They have their own way of doing things that I don't understand. They have their own recovery methods that doesn't apply. You're a you don't have a personality disorder and you're a codependent. I've never seen anybody in that who was able to completely cure themselves without doing the 4 things. Never. And I'm talking about, like, I said it last time, there's somebody I know that's physically fighting for their life and they've only done 3 of the 4 things. It's killing them. So I have enough respect to understand I got to do all 4 of those things. I only do 2 or 3. It's like taking half of the antibiotics. I was supposed to take 2 a day for 6 days, and I took 1 every other day. Well, doesn't work then. You still end up dying. The bacteria will mutate, and then the antibiotic won't work anymore. Got to do all 4 things if you want to heal. It's my experience. Here's what I can tell you. There may be another way to do it, but this one will work. If if it works, don't fix it. So that's my response to that. So the thing is also is that borderlines will not be attracted to you if you are healed. If you have unresolved, and we all do, because the infection starts in infancy. So let me be clear. The infection that the borderline gives to you when you get involved, that they awaken, like they absolutely awaken this sleeping infection within you. But the infection was already there. The seeds were already planted, even if you weren't aware of it. Most people are, but some of them aren't all that aware of it. But it was there. So they see that. They don't consciously see it. All they know is they're attracted to you. But the reason why they're attracted to you is because you have that potential within them, and they're attracted to you because on an unconscious level, they absolutely want to create this infection within you. If you are healed, if you heal that, there's nothing for them to infect, and they will not be attracted to you. So you won't have to go through the experience of, I can see them coming and now I can avoid them. As if they're these zombies that are coming at you, trying to eat you, and you're able to get away from them. No, they won't be attracted to you. They won't have any interest in you. In fact, they might even be intimidated or turned off by you. And the same is true for you. You are attracted to them. Don't give me this crap that you weren't. She was really unattractive and ugly, and there was nothing about her I liked, and then I got involved with her, and next thing I know, she said, no. You're like the moment, you guys from across the room, your eyes met, and you went, I found the other part of me. I found my twin flame, whatever it is. So both parties are this. And it's not about, if you're coming onto my channel thinking that if you watch my channel enough, you'll figure out the red flags so you can avoid them. Maybe, maybe not, but no. If you've got that within you, it's like it's a magnetic attraction. There's nothing you're going to be able to do to stop it. Nothing. They're going to see it. You're going to want it. They're going to want it. So the assumption behind the question is, so you can tell me what to do to see them coming so I can avoid it. And even though they'll come chasing after me, I'll be able to avoid their seduction. The point is, they won't be interested in you, and you won't be interested in them. You won't even realize that they're there. They will be, you go to a party, right? There's 4 or 5 girls that you're interested in. There's 1 or 2 that, and then there's a bunch that, no, I'm not interested in that. The borderline will be the one that you can, and she'll have the same. She'll go, So the assumption is that your knowledge will protect you, and it won't. Your healing will. Okay, what else? There was another question here that I wanted to interact with. And again, I asked this question, as I always ask at the end, I say, so are you doing the 4 things? Because obviously they're not. It's not a judgment. It's just I know if you do the 4 things, you'll never ask that question. You'll never ask the question, what can I do to see them coming? Because you will know when you're done doing the 4 things, you'll know that it was you all along. That you're the one that sought it out. Even though your experience was that they love bombed me and I couldn't help myself. You'll know, nope, that was me. I did that. I wanted mommy, and I saw mommy, and I went after her, and mommy hurt me again. Or daddy, depending on who you are. Here's one. This person asks, may I ask you some honest questions? I used to be a covert narc, but my BPD ex mortified me. After mortification, I dated her some more, as if I became a codependent. Maybe a mortified, a collapsed narcissist can perhaps look like a codependent. I don't know. Anyway, after no contact, I think I am slowly being reconstructed into a covert narc back again. Should I get therapies to stop myself from rebuilding? Well, let me read the whole thing. From rebuilding the narc firewall? Should I and can I? I have no idea. All right, that last sentence is the most truthful thing in there. You truly do have no idea. That's all right. First off, assumptions. I used to be a covert narc. That's an assumption. But my BPDX mortified me. Really. So your BPDX mortified you, but you stayed with her and then became a codependent. Let me read that to you again, and then I'll tell you what I think happened. I used to be a covert narc, but my BPDX mortified me. After mortification, I dated her some more, as if I became a codependent. No, what happened is that you have always been a codependent. You dated your BPDX, and what you call mortifying your narcissism is she gaslit you. She is the narcissist because BPD is a form of narcissism. She was narcissistically abusing you, and in order to, continue to do the whole thing that they do, she then gaslit you and said, "You're a narcissist. Here, I'm going to show you how." And then, because you bought into that, you were gaslit into believing that you were a narcissist, you then took on the guilt and responsibility, which is why I laugh every time you say, and I dated her some more, which doesn't make any sense. Because if you truly were a narcissist and she mortified you, mortification is something narcissists cannot recover from. The word mortification means to kill. The mortification means death making. It means the process of making somebody dead. Mortification is when the narcissist, it's just like what happens when vampires look in a mirror and they don't see a reflection and they throw something to break the mirror. Why does it bother you when you look in the mirror and you don't see anybody? For a normal person, you go, "Oh, look at that, I'm invisible." But the vampire can't tolerate it. They also can't tolerate the cross for some reason we don't know. But that mortifies them also. The sunlight burns them and they die. That's mortification. When a narcissist is mortified, it means that their true reality of themselves is reflected back to them in such a way where they actually see that they don't exist. They see their absolute utter helplessness and impotence and utter insecurity, and it makes them feel like it's killing them, because they are. If they're a narcissist, a true NPD, they've escaped death by this much. And the death that kills them is, as you know, infants die from lack of love and attention. That's the fastest way to kill an infant. You can feed it, you can wipe its ass, keep it warm, but if you don't pick it up, love it, touch it, it will die. It's the fastest way to kill an infant. Somebody who has NPD is somebody that escaped death by this much. So you literally do put them in a state of them. It could kill them. It could literally kill them. If you mortify a narcissist enough, it could be enough to kill them. So you didn't get mortified, because if you got mortified, you would have run from that woman. That she would have been like the cross to the vampire. You would not have been able to tolerate being in the same universe with her. So the fact that you continued to date her means that you weren't mortified at all. You were told that you now owe her. You're a horrible person. She projected onto you, and they call that projective identification. She made you identify with her actual narcissistic essence. This is what borderlines do. They want to take their lack of self, their narcissism, which is killing them. They want to take it and give it to you. If they can dump it on you, then they think, "I'll feel better." So every time that a narcissist and a borderline gaslights you and says, "You're the narcissist. You're the one. I did it because of you. I slept with the football team because you didn't record my favorite channel on television. It's your fault. You're so selfish. You looked at your watch when I was telling you how much I loved you. So I had to sleep with the next door neighbor and his wife and then record it and then give it to you via email. You made that happen because of your narcissism. That's what she did. And then you went, okay, I am responsible. It is my fault. Yes, I'm a narcissist. And by the way, there isn't any narcissist on the planet who says, you're right, I'm a narcissist. I won't do that anymore. I'm now going to become a codependent and take care of you. There's no narcissist in the world that will ever do that. If they do, they're not a narcissist. By definition. Sam Vaknin is a good example. Sam Vaknin is probably the most consciously aware narcissist that I've ever seen. He is so aware of his narcissism. He can tell you, he can open up his innards and tell you that, what every single emotional reaction that's happening from every single moment. But according to him, unless something has changed, according to him, he's still not cured. He still acts out narcissistically, still incapable of making love to his own wife. He still attacks people, destroys them, devalues them. He still misbehaves. And again, unless something has happened and I didn't hear about it. But based on what I heard him say recently, narcissists aren't going to change. That's the fact of the matter. They're not going to change. Borderlines, because they are on that borderline, and even though they are narcissists, they do have the ability. And maybe it's simply because they've been told they have the ability and the narcissists have been told that they can't do it. I haven't figured that out yet, not that I'm ever going to. So no, you are not a covert narc. That is, and if I'm being truthful here, codependence is a form of covert narcissism. But let's be clear. A covert narcissist, somebody who suffers from narcissistic personality disorder, and is actually their expression of narcissism is covert narcissism, which, by the way, BPD is a form of covert narcissism. If you truly are a covert narcissist, the last thing you're ever going to do is admit it. It's never going to happen. But codependence, you are right about one thing. Codependence is covert narcissistic. But the difference is somebody who has NPD actually has a mental illness that includes dissociation, inability to have a clear time frame. They can't link one day next to the other. So according to you, to go from being a covert narc, which means that you have a mental illness, you do not have an identity, you are incapable of identifying with yourself, you don't even remember what you did the day before, and if you do remember, you don't have any emotional attachment to it. It's not you. A narcissist could literally kill somebody one day, and the next day wake up and remember that somebody that looked like me committed that murder, but that was somebody else. In fact, serial killers do that all the time. And if you were to, put them, give them, what do you call that? A lie detector test. And they would say, yeah, that woman was killed by somebody that looked like me, but it wasn't me. I didn't do it. And then you would find that they were telling the truth. They honestly believe it. They don't identify with it. So you can't go from that state of dissociation, a mental illness to that degree, and then, because you're mortified, turn around and then become a codependent who actually does know what happens from one day to the next, who remembers that yesterday I said I was going to wash your car and I was going to take responsibility for all of your bills. And I remember that today. And even though I don't like it, I remember saying it and I'm going to do it because I feel guilty and responsible. You can't do that. You can't bounce back and forth like that. So this is, to be honest, what I see here is chronic codependence. Extremely chronic codependence. What codependents try to do, they try to get rid of their identity. They want to get rid of their identity so that they can then be the ultimate doormat. They want to do that, but they can't. Because a true codependent is full of rage. Even though, as I say, the lady at the PTA meeting, she comes every week with a tray of cookies. She bakes them herself. And first she showed up with store-bought cookies, and she brought cookies for everybody. Ate the cookies, and they talked amongst themselves, and nobody said thank you. And she, my God, I brought these cookies, and nobody said anything. I'm just here to help. And then she says, I know what I'll do. I will bake the cookies. And then she goes in and she gets the store-bought, the cookie dough, and she bakes them and brings them, and they're hot and fresh. And people are like, oh my God, fresh cookies. And they eat the cookies, and then they talk amongst themselves, and they don't say anything to her. And she goes, oh my God, I baked these cookies. They're warm. I rushed from home to get them here in time, and nobody even said anything. And I'm just here to help. And I can't believe nobody said anything about the cookies. And then she says, I know what I'll do. I will bake cookies from scratch. That'll get their attention. Then they'll love me. And she bakes them from scratch in the school auditorium's oven so that she can literally bring them into the PTA meeting. And the chocolate is dripping off, and people are like, oh my God, these are amazing. And of course they don't say anything, and they talk with each other and they leave. And she's absolutely devastated. And she comes back the next week with no cookies, and nobody says anything. And then she just says, I just want to say one thing. I don't ask for much. And I give, and nobody gives back to me. And I'm never coming back to this PTA meeting. And she rushes off, and people are like, what the hell was her problem? Where are the cookies? Did you bring the cookies? That's a codependent. Codependent is filled with rage. They present themselves as being the servant because as a kid, they were told their worth is a direct result of what they do for others, not because they exist. And the truth of the matter is those people that were eating the cookies, they would have loved if the cookie maker would just sit down and just be a normal person. They would have loved them for that. They would have said, I really like her. Why? I don't know. She just makes me feel good. I was with somebody like that today. There's a person here that I know, a friend of mine, and every now and then I'll, as I'm walking along the beach, I'll come up and I'll see him. And I hadn't seen him, and I saw him, and I sat down next to him, and he was playing his guitar. And, talked with him for about 5 or 6 minutes, and, I walked away going, I really like that guy. He didn't do anything. It's because he's just comfortable with himself. He likes himself. He loves his own existence. And because he loves his own existence, I love being around him. He's I could just sit next to him and just let him play. He's just a great person to be around. He doesn't have to do anything. But the codependent, you don't have any worth if you don't do something. If you don't do something to get so that's what you want to know why the narcissist chased you down. You think if I give you the red flags? No, you need that. You need the person who's going to narcissistically abuse you, because the narcissistic abuse is you only have value if you do what I want. You're just an object here to fulfill my fantasies. And if you don't do that, you have no value to me. And you go, oh my God, finally somebody sees what I'm here to do, and now I have value, I have worth. But you tell yourself that, no, I just loved them unconditionally, and all they did was hurt me. And, I don't know why it happens to me every time. I'm making fun of it. It's really quite sad and horrible because I lived through it myself. So I know how painful it is. But the truth is, the 4 things will teach you that you will realize that I wanted something from them this whole time. And the only reason I'm in pain is because they didn't give me what I wanted. I wanted validation, and they didn't give it to me. And it's just that simple. And then you realize there's nothing to mourn. I mourned the loss of my fiance, and I still mourn the loss of it. That pain is real. That is not a fantasy. That is real pain, because she did truly, honestly love me, and I truly, honestly loved her. It was a real relationship. The love was real. So the loss of her is a real loss, but because it's a real loss, I can heal from it. You don't heal from the loss of the narcissist or the borderline. Number one, because the love isn't real. It is pure fantasy, transference, and projection. The loss is your parents that you never get over. You will never fully get over the fact that mom did not love you for who you were. You can heal and continue to grow, but that pain will never ultimately, completely ever go away. And that's why the only thing I can promise you is if you do the 4 things, you will be completely healed of that narcissistic partner, but you won't be free of your codependence. That's a pain that unfortunately you can continually make progress on, but you're never going to be over it. There's going to be a hole there that's never going to be filled. All right, so to answer your question, Khan Anal, do the 4 things. Should I get therapies to stop myself from rebuilding the narc firewall? You're not doing that. You should just do the 4 things. Do an inventory, and then you'll realize that this is your codependent narcissistic fantasy that you're a covert narcissist, because you're not. All right. I'm happy to see if there are any questions. If there are, I'll answer them. If not, that's fine too. I know it's the middle of the night for everybody. Oh, there's nobody on. Fernando Almaguer. Again, questions are best. You're less likely to be psychoanalyzed if you ask an honest question. But let's see. He says, as soon as I discovered some other guy at her apartment while she was, quote, talking to me at the same time, I lost all interest in her, disgusted, and realized it's all a sham. Okay. Why are you still on my channel then? If you realized it's all a sham and it doesn't bother you, why are you still here? I'm willing to bet that you may have realized it was all a sham, but I'm also willing to bet that you're still angry and upset and hurt. Maybe I'm wrong. I would have, if I was with borderline that did that to me, I would be devastated and damaged, and I would need to do some work to heal. All right, so no questions, but again, what are the 4 things? 4 things are, number 1, you go full no contact. That means you make it impossible for them to contact you. You throw your phone in the river, you move, change your name, go to another country, whatever. Make it impossible for them to contact you for the rest of your life. If you don't do that, you haven't gone full no contact, sorry. Number 2, you work the 12 steps of coda.org or whatever 12-step program you like with a sponsor, and then you sponsor somebody else. Anybody who says that the 12 steps have no place and aren't necessary, they can't say that if they haven't done it. The only person that can say the 12 steps have nothing to do with recovering from narcissistic abuse if you're a codependent is somebody who's actually done them fully, 100%. Then you have the right to say that. Until you've done that, you can't talk about something you haven't done. Number 3 is you work with a psychologist who understands cluster B personality disorders. And that's important. And number 4, daily meditation. So those are the 4 things. That's the only way that I know to have what I say I have, which is that I literally have nothing. There's no negative anything associated with my borderline ex. Not only that, but when I think about the relationship, I realize there was nothing there. So there's nothing to mourn over. Tanisha Lulu question, Mike, I met a guy that I suspect is highly covert narcissistic. It's a weird gut feeling I have. My question is having dreams where they're obsessing over you reflective of what might be actually going on? I don't know. Tanisha, have you done the 4 things? Maybe you have. The answer to your question is if you do the 4 things, you don't have to ask those questions. Again, what is it that you want? You want to be empowered enough so that you don't attract them and you aren't attracted to them. So if you are empowered, you won't have to worry about it. My experience has been that since I did the 4 things, again, I was in a lot of pain for about 2 months. And then I did the 4 things, especially the 4th step inventory with a sponsor. And that cured me, literally. I figured out what was really going on. What was really going on with me was that this was unresolved mommy issues. And the narcissistic abandonment and devaluation reminded me so much of my experience with my mom that's why I was so attached to her. I was so deeply attached to her that I was willing to die over that connection. It wasn't about her, it was about my mom. And a little 4-year-old should feel that way. When mom isn't there for a little 4-year-old boy, and she devalues and abandons him, then he should feel that way. But a grown man dating some woman after 4, even 6 months or a year, you want to die over that? That's not coming from her. It's coming from somewhere else. But it wasn't until I did the 4th step and I did my resentments that I was able to go, oh my God, this has nothing to do with her. Not only the awareness of that, me telling you that, and you go, yeah, it's got nothing to do with her, isn't going to fix it. You actually have to have that neurological shift in your brain where you not only intellectually know it, but it goes into your bones. You go, oh yeah, she's nothing. And then if they contact you, you go, no thanks. But they won't. Once you truly mortify them, you've mortified them. When you truly see that they're nothing, that they were just somebody that you projected onto and they projected onto you. When you truly see that, that will be mortification and they won't want you. You will be repulsive to them. So as long as they're chasing after you, it means that you're not done. So Tanisha, you haven't answered my question. Have you done the 4 things? Am I wrong in assuming you haven't? You've been on my channel for a while, so if it's true that you haven't, then we're at that scenario where you've come back to the doctor's office and he said, did you take the antibiotics? And you said, no, I read them though. And I researched it. Well, the doctor's going to say, I don't have any sympathy for you. You didn't take the medication. So Tanisha Lulu, have you done the 4 things? You say, what's weird is he's just too perfect. I don't know what that means. I don't know. I honestly don't know if he is a good guy and you being a good, you haven't. So there you go. So Tanisha, how long have you been watching my channel? You've been watching it a while, huh? It's been months at least, right? And the truth is, it takes 0 time to do the 4 things. Everybody listening to me, as soon as I turn this off, can go and begin doing that. You can go no contact, if you haven't done it so already. You can go online and go to coda.org. There are meetings going on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, somewhere in the world. You can go to an online Zoom meeting right now, get yourself a sponsor, start working the steps. You can get a therapist, and if you can't afford one, you can find somebody who can counsel you for free online. They're all over the place. So Tanisha Lulu, the best question you can ask me is the questions that people ask when they first get here because they don't know any better. And then I tell them, do the 4 things that will fix it. And they go, okay, and they go and do them. That's how it should be done. Of course, it's not, because every true codependent is going to resist fixing it. So Tanisha Lulu, the fact that you're still here asking me these questions means that you're protecting your love of poison. That you have an unconscious desire to poison yourself with a narcissistic relationship. And you're protecting that. We all do that. We all do that. So Gita Quinn, all you have to do is scroll up, because at the very beginning of this live chat, I have the 4 things. So you'll have to forgive me. It's annoying. On my other channel, I say, the 2 most important things you need in life are to pay attention and put effort. And you haven't done either of those things. Because if you just simply scrolled up, you would have seen the 4 things absolutely in perfect detail. So go do that, and then you'll see it. And by the way, good for you for wanting to do that. Let's say. So Tanisha Lulu is going to now defend herself. And again, it's real simple. There's a bottle of pills. You open them up. Take it with water twice a day. Okay, I've done it. The 4 things, you either do them or you don't. That's it. You either do them or you don't. You're going to give me some excuse why you haven't done it, or you're going to want me to give you a thumbs up. And you can see in my face, I have no negative feelings towards you. I have no judgment towards you. I'm just honestly reflecting. You haven't done them. You could have done them. You had plenty of time to do them. And everybody can do them right now. When we're done with this live stream, you can do them now. You say, I've come a long way from where I was a few months ago. Truthfully, I haven't started Coda. Coming a long way is like saying, I haven't died of AIDS yet. I mean, it's unfortunately, I know what you want, which is you want me to give you a pat on the back, because you want me to reassure you. And this isn't about you being a good person. This is a very codependent thing. Codependents want to be valued and reassured, and they want to be told that they're a good boy and girl. And so you want me to tell you that. Did you pick this thing up and move it from one side of the computer to the other, which I just did? I picked up this pawpaw ointment and I put it on the other side of the computer. Did I do that? Yes or no? I've come a long way. I brought it closer and closer to my computer. I've put my hands around it a couple of times. I know what it feels like. I've come a long way. Have you moved it from one side to the other? No, I haven't done that yet. So you didn't do it. Your need to feel valued is not what this is about. I already value you. I love you exactly as you are. There is nothing you can do that will give you more value in my eyes. You have value simply because you exist. The issue is that you're suffering from some pain, an infection, and I've given you the treatment. You haven't taken it. So you taking the treatment or not taking the treatment has no effect on my acceptance of you and your value as a person. So now that you have as much validation and love as you could ever get from me, now that you've accomplished that, now the only thing left for you to do is actually go to Coda, get a sponsor, work the 12 steps. And then it's not about me, then you can feel better. And you won't care whether I accept you or not. You won't care if I judge you or don't judge you. You'll feel better. Okay, I don't know who this is. Paul Jackson, I'm not interested in your abuse. This is a channel for people who've been in relationships with borderlines. And your accusation of me, whatever it is you think I'm doing, is not accurate. And I'm not interested. I don't have anything to prove to you. You are not the person for who this is. And whether or not you think I'm, you haven't watched enough of my videos to know that I'm actually not, I'm not devaluing borderlines at all. So I find your comment abusive. It's inaccurate. It's untrue. And I'm not interested in your abuse. So you can watch the channel. If it's helpful to you, great. But I have no interest in being on the other side of your projection. So I wish you all the best. I hope that you get some therapy if you're not already in it. And all the best to you. But this channel is not relevant to you personally. So we're gonna wish you goodbye. See, Gita Quinn. I don't think I was speaking to you, so I don't know who you're talking to here. Yeah, okay, same thing. You're defending why you didn't see the 4 things. Yeah, anyway, they're up there at the top. So scroll up to the top. We're all good. Nothing more needs to be said about that. Ooh, the Dark Triad. Ooh, what does that mean? You are the Dark Triad, or you study the Dark Triad? Glad you are doing this. Went through it over 20 years ago and still feel it today, but only a little. I did the work, moved on, got married to a good woman, and have a great daughter. Thanks. I'm glad. Listen, nobody has to do anything. I don't have any need for anybody to do anything. If you're okay with your life and you're happy with it, that's awesome. Now, having said that, I don't want what you have. Nothing personal. I don't want to be mostly over it. I don't want to say I still feel it, but I still feel it a little. I don't want that. I don't ever want to ever feel it again. If we're talking about the same thing, which is what I'm talking about is the person that I was with, I have zero feeling about. It's interesting. I'm still feeling dirty from Paul Jackson's accusation. I mean, his, the devaluation and the judgment and the, I'm still feeling it. Isn't that gross? It's gross. Borderlines can be so abusive, and and he has no idea. Paul Jackson has no idea how abusive he is, and he has no idea how toxic his abuse is. He really, honestly believes that he has to defend himself from me. And while I understand and have compassion for it, it doesn't take away I blocked him for a reason. There's a lot of people, some codependents will say things and I don't block them. But that kind of abuse is it's just so ugly and toxic and so anyway, just to, again, I'm not immune to borderlines. I'm not immune to narcissistic abuse. So, but anyway, that's why we go no contact. We block them, make it impossible for them to. Now, I'm not going to get into it with him and go back and forth and try and prove to him that I really do care about him and I don't have any negative, feelings about him, and I'm not going to try and prove to him, all that other shit, because it doesn't matter. It never changes. The dynamic never changes. It's always going to be that way. So the easiest thing to do is just block him, go no contact, and I don't have to deal with it. Dark Triad. So again, I think that's awesome that you said that. I'm great that you've found a good woman and you've got a great daughter. I don't know what that means, to be honest with you. I don't know why having a great daughter means something in this. I can understand why having a good woman. I guess it means because you haven't abused her, which is awesome. But if I'm hearing you right, that you have gotten over it, it's taken you a long time, and it only still affects you a little bit, you mean the relationship. You still sometimes think about it. I don't want that. And for me, the only way to do that is the inventory, the fourth step with a sponsor. That's the only way that I know how to be completely free of that. So without knowing any more, that's my perhaps an inaccurate judgment of you, that you could still benefit from doing some 12 steps if you haven't done so already. And again, I have to point out the name. Why would you call yourself that? I mean, this was over 20 years ago. Why would you call yourself the Dark Triad? Obviously, it's something that you think about, something you study. It tells me that something isn't resolved. I could be totally wrong. I will be okay if I'm totally wrong about that. You say, I mean, because we are talking about it here, I cannot not remember. I'm not talking about not remembering. That's not what we're talking about. I remember. To be honest, there's a lot of things I don't remember because there's no emotional charge to it. And sometimes I remember when I listen to other people, and I remember, and I go, oh my God, I remember when that happened with me. But the fact that it's like having a really bad flu. You know, when you're in the midst of the flu and there's, green pussy stuff coming out of your nose and your throat is the worst it's ever been. You remember it, but then after, a couple of months and you remember, I think I had the flu. Did I have the flu, honey, last year? It was really bad, right? Oh yeah, that's right. I puked on the cat. I forgot all about that. It's like that. It was really bad, and there's a lot of stuff I don't remember. But we're not talking about that. So the fact that you can't not remember is telling me that you still feel it. It still hurts you. It still affects you. I'm not judging you. If you don't, again, my feeling is based on my experience, which is all I have, is that fourth step is a cure. It's a tool, it's a cure that if you don't use it, the infection never truly goes away. So that's what I'm hearing from you. I could be wrong. Doesn't sound like you've done the 12 steps. You haven't done an inventory. And you still feel it. It's been 20 years, so some of it is healed, some of it is scarred over. It's deep. It's a scar that's very deep. Scars are functional, I have scars, but a scar isn't true flesh. It's not. Like there's some organs, like if your heart gets scarred, it never really truly heals, and your heart will be less functional because of that scar. It's scarred over and you won't die. But that's what I'm hearing you say. So I don't know, I'm seeing big giant paragraphs coming up, and what I don't want to do with you, Dark Triad, I'm not interested in needing you to defend yourself or explain yourself. Because there's literally nothing that you can say that's going to make me probably feel differently. So one of the things that you learn in any kind of codependent recovery is it's okay for somebody to have less than perfect feelings about you. And one thing that codependents all have is they can't tolerate people thinking badly of them. And this is why when I say somebody's a codependent, they want to argue with me about it because they think I'm thinking badly of them. So it becomes this battle. So without looking at all of the paragraphs, I don't want to do that with you. What I will suggest is you can listen to what I have to say. You can decide whether or not it's applicable. And if the pain is still there, I have still a valid way that you might be able to heal any residual pain that's still there, which you're calling, I can't not remember it. That sounds like trauma, by the way. I've said that. I've said, I can't forget. I can't stop thinking about that. I wish I could forget it, but I can't. That's a sign of trauma. Again, we're just looking at text and words and all that. So anyway, so having said that, the Dark Triad, he did say one thing. The Dark Triad, Scott. My name isn't Scott. If you're talking to me, my name isn't Scott. Scott, we are talking about the subject. The name is just a name and you are totally wrong. Your assessment of me is not, again, that comes across very codependent. This is what I mean. Your need to argue with me and tell me I am not what you're... If you really are comfortable with yourself, there's going to be no need to do that. Your assessment of me is not accurate. By the way, my news here is good, but you're making a good message bad. I'm not making anything good or bad. This is what I mean. Codependence. That's bad. You're saying I'm bad. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, look, let's be clear about something. Dark Triad. I didn't come knocking on your door and say, hey, I'm going to be doing this live stream having to do with narcissistic abuse. I want you to come on to that, and then I want you to tell me your experience of it, and then I'm going to analyze it. I didn't do that. You're the one that said, this happened to me over 20 years ago. I'm mostly over it. I'm watching some guy on YouTube talk about it, and I need to comment about it. And I'm listening to your comment, and I'm reflecting back to you my honest feeling based on what I read. And your response is to get very defensive and prove to me how good you are and how I'm making you bad. And forgive me for saying so, but all that is chronic. It's classic codependence. If you really are that comfortable, a comfortable person says, you know what? I'm not aware. Like, for instance, here's the most truthful thing anybody can say. The most truthful thing anybody can say is, if what you're saying is true, I'm not aware of it. I don't feel that way, but if you're right, I'm not aware of it. Person who says, absolutely not. What you're saying about me is absolutely untrue. There's obviously some reaction you're having. If you're really that comfortable, you would go, you know what, I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. I still do think about it a little bit, and I would love not to. I'm interested to hear more. That's the sign of somebody who's comfortable. Not you took it, you're taking it totally wrong, and you're taking some good news and you're turning it into something bad. There's just no need for you to defend yourself like this. Having said that, I understand. I understand why you're doing it. And unless number one, I'm right, which I could be wrong, unless I'm not right, and unless you don't want to heal that, there's nothing I'm going to say that's going to make it attractive to you. You're going to get more deeply entrenched in your defensiveness, and every attempt I have to mirror back at you is going to make you get more defensive, and then you're going to get off and you're going to go, no, that guy, he had it all wrong, and you know, whatever. Anyways, let's keep going. So that's my suggestion to you, Dark Triad. Here's the question I want to ask you. Forget about all this who's right and who's wrong, and am I making you bad, and am I misunderstanding you? Let's just put that aside for a second, because I honestly don't have an issue about it. What I heard you say is something I don't want. And what I don't want is I don't want that destructive relationship to have any space in my head. To your credit, you're honest. You say that it still hurts a little bit. I still can't not remember. And I want to acknowledge your honesty. And I'm honestly saying if I had that experience, I would want to heal that. Why would you want to justify something that you don't want in your life? Why not, if there is a possibility to get to the place where you actually don't have to remember it, and you don't even have a little bit of pain, wouldn't you rather have that than spend all this energy in justifying why you have it and why I'm misunderstanding you and all that? Wouldn't you much rather be able to say, yeah, I did the work and I have zero pain, and I don't even remember, because I'm telling you the truth about me. The only reason that I remember it is because I still do this channel. And the only reason I do this channel is people keep asking me to do it. And I am glad that I'm able to be helpful. But I honestly, what happened, if you don't know, I started this channel a year and a half ago because if you go back chronologically, and I recommend you do that, you can see how much pain I'm in. I'm in horrific pain. And I feel like I'm going to die. And I'm talking at, supposedly talking to other people, but I'm really talking to myself because there was nobody to talk to. And I wanted to die. I was in so much pain. And then I did the 4 things. I became aware during that I was codependent and I needed to work the steps, and I did. And then I literally forgot. I forgot about the channel, and I literally forgot about her. The healing was so complete that I started to forget. I started forgetting her name, and I used to go, yeah, and they're like, I've gone days and I haven't even thought about her. And then when I did think about her, I had no pain whatsoever. And I forgot about the channel and I walked away from it. And then my email started blowing up with people leaving comments and asking for help. And I went, oh, holy crap. So what the hell? I mean, if it's helpful, I want to help people. It's good for me. It's good karma for me to help others. But if this channel stopped, if nobody wanted my help, I wouldn't think twice about it. So I literally I would have forgotten about her had it not been for this channel. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying, don't you want that? According to you, it's been 20 years. I have a pretty good feeling that in 20 years, I will not remember her name. I won't remember anything about her. I'm quite sure I will be done with this channel in 20 years. Don't you want that? If you do, I can tell you what worked for me. Or you can hang on to it and you can defend it and you can protect it. Which would you rather have? Gita Quinn. So now Gita Quinn I think is gonna judge me. So bear in mind, here's what judgment is. Judgment is a defense. Judgment is a defense against something that you feel it can do you harm. It's the intellect. When we judge, we're not in our feelings. So this is when, if you're new to this channel, and I think Gita is, if you're new to this channel, there are 2 things that I ask for. I can't control what you do, but what I ask for is that you do give me 2 things. You either ask an honest question or you give an honest feeling. I don't ask for an honest thought or an honest statement. And the reason for that is because for me, I am in the best place to heal when I have an honest question. An honest question is, I don't have the answer to it, but you might. An honest feeling is, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm furious. And when I have the feeling without any judgment behind it, like I don't judge myself for having it, then I'm able to get to the core of it and know what caused it. And usually I'll find that a feeling is associated, there's some desire in me. I want something. I want your love, I want your approval, I want something from you. And when I don't get what I want, it creates a feeling in me. So when people feel I'm abusing them or if I'm judging them, maybe I am, I don't know. But if I'm not, and I'm telling you what I see without any judgment, and you have the feeling that I'm criticizing you and calling you names, it means that you're wanting to protect yourself from a perceived attack. And there's no attack here. I'm literally handing you a cure for your pain associated with the person that you were harmed by. There's no judgment here. There's nothing that you feel that I haven't felt. But it's going to feel like a judgment if the cure feels if the cure feels threatening to you. Again, we protect our wounds. We were programmed as infants and toddlers to mistake poison for medicine. So that means when I hand you medicine, you're going to think it's poison. and you're going to want to defend yourself. I mean, look at my friend Tanisha Lulu. She's been on my channel a long time. She already knows exactly what the 4 things are, and she hasn't done them. I don't judge her for that. I know why she hasn't done them, because she was programmed the same way I was programmed as a little kid to feel that if you heal yourself, you'll kill your parents. And if you kill your parents, you'll die. That's what goes on in the mind of an infant. That's why infants have magical thinking. Infants think they can kill you with their feelings. Little 4-year-olds think they can kill you with their feelings. And they can't. Somebody has a hateful feeling towards you, it's not going to, That's why a healthy mom, you go to a healthy mom when you're 4 years old and you put your hands on your hips and you say, Mom, I hate you. I wish you were dead. And Mom says, I know. I still love you. Come here. A mom that's not healthy, you put your hands on your hips and you say, Mom, I hate you. Mom slaps you across the face and says, how dare you talk to me like that? I'm your mother. So you learn, if I have negative feeling towards Mom, it'll kill her. If I kill Mom, I'll be dead. I have to push all my feelings down, and I have to protect my need to be, what I'm calling codependent. So bear in mind, that's what's happening. Whenever you're resistant to me saying you're codependent or pointing out your codependence, your desire to defend yourself, or your need to feel judged, is actually the need to protect your abusive parent. I don't know if any of that's making any sense. But there's no judgment coming from me. Not that I'm aware of. I'm not aware of any judgment towards anybody. Let's see. Geeta Quinn, I was just asking a question because I truly want to know, to use my knowledge of blah, blah, blah. I don't know what question you were asking. You didn't ask a question. I don't remember. You say, I learn a lot from this sober approach. I find it interesting that you judge very quickly. I feel it as a bit unfortunate, but it's my own coda trying to explain. I don't know what that means. All I can do is apologize. I don't know what you're apologizing for. Again, I don't know what that's all about. It was so simple. It was so simple. You asked what are the 4 things, and I said they're up at the top. If you paid more attention, you would have seen them. And you're still defending yourself over that. That is a very codependent thing to do. And I guess I can apologize. I could have just said, you know what, if you scroll up to the top, you'll see it there. I could have just done that. Let's see what else. Marco, that's not a question. I feel sorry for you. Do your 4 steps work? Oh, you're asking a question. So Marco, if you have a question, if you write the word question, I'll know it's a question. You didn't do that. I almost just went past it. So you're asking me a question. Now I know. You say, do your 4 steps work for ex-partners of histrionics? I feel like my ex sucked all the blood out of me. I'm tired all the time, and I get nightmares and erotic dreams all the time. So if a histrionic means a cluster B personality, then yes. But the truth is yes. It doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be cluster B. Codependence can be with, alcoholism, drug addiction, sex addicts, gambling addicts, other codependence. Doesn't have to be just, coda isn't just for cluster B. So yes. They're not my 4 steps. I didn't invent them. I didn't create them. I just put them that way because people need to see them. Otherwise, they don't even know they exist. Yes, the short answer is yes. Marco, if you do the 4 steps, you can completely heal from your histrionic ex. Happy birthday, Geeta. I'm so sorry that you're going through that, and I'm sorry that I stimulated that in you. That was definitely not my intention. I can be a pain in the ass sometimes, and that was one experience of that. But happy birthday, my friend. You have absolutely, completely given value to the world simply by existing. The fact that you exist and you have feelings and you experience life and you have consciousness and you interact with this three-dimensional, strange, beautiful, wonderful world that we live in. The fact that you are here gives me purpose, and every other being in the universe has purpose simply because you exist. And this is the day. The birthdays especially are the days when we just say to somebody, we are grateful that you exist in this universe. So I am grateful to you, Gita. This is your birthday. I am grateful that you exist, and your existence and your happiness gives me and every other being in the universe purpose, and gives us more life and more, you make life more wonderful simply because you're alive. So happy birthday to you. What else? Anything else? Nothing else. All right, so as I have shown in my limitation, I'm not an expert, and I am not an enlightened being. I'm just a human being, just like you. Whatever problems you have, I have them. Whatever good things I've accomplished for myself, if I can do it, trust me, you can do it. And I can promise you this one thing, and this is the only thing that matters in this channel. If you do the 4 things with everything you have, as though your life depends on it, at some point, I can't tell you when, how long it will take you, but I guarantee you at some point, no matter how bad it gets, you will be able to be 100% healed from the narcissistic relationship. That person will never, ever cause you harm when you think about them. You'll still have other problems, but in terms of that person, you can have complete healing. That's what I've experienced, and if I can do it, you can do it. But you have to do what I did to get what I have. And those are the 4 things. Here's a question. Patrick Burke, question. Please put question in all caps for me, because otherwise I might not see it. Do you have any specific advice for someone who is divorced from a BPDX, but we have had children and no contact is not possible? By the way, I greatly appreciate your channel and insights. So first off, let me say I have no experience in that, so I can't talk from experience. But because I haven't had any experience in it, I also, I think, can say some things that other people would be afraid to say. So first and foremost, you can have no contact. It is possible, but in this way. You do it through a lawyer. You have the lawyer be the go-between. So if your ex wants to contact you about seeing the kids, she doesn't contact you, she talks to the lawyer. The lawyer then, you tell the lawyer what your boundaries are and your time frame, and she tells the lawyer what her boundaries and time frame, and the lawyer then says, here's the schedule. And then the lawyer tells you, and et cetera, et cetera. That's going to find some, it's going to cost you some money. And you'll have to forgive me, I don't have any sympathy when people say, but that costs money. And well, I'm not the one that chose to have children with somebody that you now know is a borderline. That was your responsibility. So I believe that the universe provides everything you need to be safe and happy. And if it means you have to find extra money to pay a lawyer to be a go-between, the universe will provide that. So you can go no contact. And I absolutely 100% suggest that. As I said, I've seen people in similar, almost identical situations to what you're talking about, and they don't go no contact, and it's killing them. They do everything else. They do all the other 3 things, but they haven't done that first thing, and they're literally fighting for their life. Borderlines, when they're toxic, it's not just, that word isn't just a phrase. It's literally physically toxic to us. And why would you walk into a room that had radioactive, rocks on the floor? You wouldn't. There's nothing that you're going to do that's going to protect you from that radioactivity. Borderlines are radioactive unless they're in therapy and in recovery. They are toxic to us. So we have to go no contact. It's not just about, doing the right thing, or, it'll save your life, in my opinion, in my experience. Let's see, what else? Do me a favor, write honest feeling in all caps, because otherwise, like I said, if there's a bunch of people, I'll scroll past it. I want to see your feelings. I feel thankful for your videos. They have been very in this process that I'm going through at the moment. My ex has been discarding me many times during the last months. Yeah, so go no contact, and then she can't discard you anymore. But I'm glad that it's working for you. Jacko says, I can see a lot of characteristics of borderline in her and was trying to get her to see that. That's not your job. The only thing that you can do, let me say this, I do believe that you can have a role in possibly getting her into therapy, but this is the only way that it should be done. On the way out, when you're leaving and you are about to make it impossible for her to contact you, you tell her, this relationship is damaging to me. I love you, but for my own health, I have to get out. I'm going to go no contact. I hope you understand. I think you might have borderline personality disorder, but that's up for you to figure out. Goodbye. All you have to do is plant the seed. She's probably going to say, I'm not, that's him, he's the borderline. But if she ever gets to the place where the pain gets so bad that she wants to do something about it, she might remember that, and then she can go and get some help. But what you are trying to do is you are trying to get her to see that, hoping that you could get her into therapy, thinking that if you got her into therapy, she'd stop hurting you. But the truth is, as long as you're around, therapy isn't going to be helpful to her. It won't take. In order for a borderline to want to get healthy, I mean, there are some that they're so aware that because they want to get healthy, they'll go get healthy even if they're in a relationship. I would say that's like a less than 1% chance. The rest of the 99.9%, they're not going to seek help until they can't get things to work anymore. So when you're there, they can get you to do what they want, which means you become their fix. And there's no reason to go cold turkey if you've got, your drug of choice right there, which is you. So when they damage enough relationships and they're all by themselves and there's nobody that they can get, if they're like, let's say they're a really attractive borderline woman, uses her sexuality to get men to give her attention. When she gets 40 years old and she's not hot anymore, and she can't get, 20-year-old guys to do what she wants, and she's burned all of her bridges, and has no relationships and no job, and she's in a lot of pain, then maybe she'll go, maybe he's right, maybe I should go get help from my BPD. They're not going to get help until there's no other option, or they really do get it, but they're not going to get it as long as you're around. So if you want to help them, the best thing to do is to go no contact. And on the way out, you just mention, I think you might have BPD, but that's for you to figure out. So Jocko, we can stop our communication now. You haven't done the 4 things. And everything you talk about, all the feelings you have, will be resolved if you do the 4 things. So go do them. And then all these feelings that you have, like the hope you have for her to recover, etc., I could go deep into that, but I'm trying to get off tonight. Get off the live chat for tonight. All of that feeling will go away when you do the 4 things. You'll never have to feel that again. Patrick Burke, question. Okay, decent suggestion. Thank you. Any advice as to how you help your children navigate a relationship with their BPD mom? That's a question for a therapist, a psychologist. I'm not a psychologist. I've never had kids, so I can't answer that. The legal system enforces her right to have time with the children. Well, I can only accept that. My feeling is this. The fastest way to create a borderline is for them to be raised by a borderline. So I'm assuming your kids are over the age of 3. So whatever, I'm sorry, I'm just being straight with you. I hope it doesn't hurt your feelings. Whatever damage she's done, it's already been done. So there is going to be some fallout. As they get older, they're going to need some help. Almost assuredly. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm okay if I'm wrong about that. But here's my feeling about it. If you have had kids with a borderline, and your borderline is undiagnosed and or untreated, they are continuously abusing your kids. It is impossible for them not to abuse them. They can't help it. They have a mental illness. And they are toxic. You chose to have more than one child with somebody whom you now know has a very destructive, incurable mental illness. So it is your responsibility, since your ex cannot, it is your responsibility to do everything in your power, even to your death. Normally when somebody comes on here and they're hemming and hawing about, going no contact, and I give them some space. But when I hear somebody say, yeah, and we've got a 2-year-old, then I get harsh with them and I say, you fucking chose to have a kid with somebody you now know is toxic. If you don't get that kid out of there, that kid may turn into a borderline. You need to get your ass to a therapist and call a lawyer, and you need to get full custody. You do whatever the hell it takes. You spend as much money as you can. You put yourself in debt, because this isn't about you anymore. There's an innocent little kid whose head is going to get fucking scrambled. And you don't want to be alive, 10, 20 years from now and go to their funeral because they committed suicide, because you didn't want to deal with the guilt of taking the child away from your borderline ex. Now, I'm not saying that to you because that's not your scenario, but that's how I believe it should be. Once, there's an innocent kid involved, there's no time for any bullshit or any, I don't want to cause any problems, I don't want any tension, there's no time for that. So you say that legally you can't get custody. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But I would say, I would do, if I were in your position, I would do everything in my power. I wouldn't stop. I would never give up. I would do everything in my power to get those kids away from that toxic person. Unless you honestly think that she's in therapy and she's making progress. But again, the guy that I know that's struggling for his life, it's that scenario. It's that scenario. It's not the same. There's some differences, of course, but he hasn't asked for my advice. But if he did, I would say you're still in contact with the person that's damaging you. So I have a no, you don't negotiate with terrorists. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so they're already 16 and 18, so it's kind of, they're already adults. So what's the point? Yeah, so you've got a 16-year-old that who knows what happened. Obviously, I don't know if it's a girl or a boy. The 16-year-old was raised by a borderline. So you have to do whatever you can to get to help. And you really need to do the 4 things if you're not already doing them, because not only are you a codependent to your borderline ex, but your 16-year-old. That's got to be a mind fuck on its own for you. You know, that's got to be, so you've got to learn how to lovingly let go, because, you know, who knows what could happen. Worst case scenario, you're going to have to let go. You know, you don't know what she's going to do. And you're not going to help her if you don't fix your codependence. So you owe it to them now. Now what you owe them, because now that they're basically adults, now what you owe them is you need to heal yourself, because you are still going to be an example for them. And so the more that you can do the 4 things for yourself, they will, even if they're not doing it now, they will remember, and even if you tell them, you know, I'm doing some work to heal myself, and you're transparent with them about you going back and working the steps and all that, when they're ready, if and when that happens, they'll know who to come and ask. So, yeah, you are a codependent, but you're not working the steps. Well, now you know. If you didn't know about the steps in Coda, now you do. And now you can go a little. You can go even further, and you're obviously you've come a long way, and now you can go even further. And yep. Then you can go to sleep at night and go, I've done everything humanly possible. And that's really a good place to be, when you can say that. I've done everything humanly possible. The rest is out of my hands. All right, that's it for me. I'm going to go and eat some food and obsess over the fact that there's going to be perfect weather for surfing, but no waves. And that's going to drive me crazy. But I'll get over it. All right, guys, I'll see you next time I see you. Take care of yourself.